Hello, Florida. This is Joe Mullins of the Live, Work, Shop, Play Show, and welcome to the show today. And our new listeners that we have, we want to thank you for joining in all the way from Jacksonville down to Sarasota with the big, great city of Orlando and the amazing city of Tampa, where we're airing out of now. You can see it in our backdrop, the beautiful skyline of Tampa, and all the cities in between and all the podcast places we go out. This is why Florida is the best place to celebrate your holidays in and to live, work, shop, and play, because we have so many great things going on in this model state to show the rest of this country and the rest of the world how to live. And today I've got two very special guests with me. They are some of the reasons Florida is one of the greatest states to live, work, shop, and play in. I've got a good friend of mine, James Fishback. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe.
Now, James, I saw something that totally blew me away a few days ago. Wasn't expecting it, but very excited, very new energy. You have decided to do something a little different in life, and you are running for a political seat.
I am running for Florida governor. I'm a fourth-generation Floridian. I'm running for two reasons, Joe. Governor DeSantis has been the greatest governor of our lifetime here in Florida. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to keep his wheel spinning. And then number two, I want to deliver affordability for Floridians. It shouldn't be this hard to buy a home, raise a family, or retire in our state. We got to get back to the basics, make it more affordable for folks to live and thrive here.
James, that's a big leap, but very exciting. And my second guest here, I have Carmen Edmonds. Carmen, you are the chair of the Hillsborough GOP. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's exciting to have you and see what's going on in our great state. You guys have done an amazing job here in Tampa, getting the word out, getting some strong leaders in. You got a very area that could be so easily liberal and just tear apart because you've got such a big city with a lot of impacts. But you guys fight hard to keep this very conservative. Now, normally, you're on the show today. Normally, we don't endorse candidates. The RECs or the chairs or the parties don't endorse candidates until after. And you're not here to endorse a candidate, but today I'd love to have your feedback and some questions that you see are facing the area, the region, the state, the country, everything, to be able to see what we need to be focused on, because we got a very important election coming up in it's less than 12 months now.
Right.
Coming up.
Right. Yeah, we don't endorse, especially at the local level. We can endorse locally from the Board of County Commission, City Council. We are able to do that according to our rules and procedure and model constitution through the RPOF. But as far as state level, governor, the cabinet, senators, all that stuff, we're not allowed to do that, but the RPOF can. So just like they've already come out and endorsed Ashley Moody for senator in 2026. So there's kind of some nuances to that. But yeah, at the local level, we don't typically endorse. And we just it's really up to the voters to decide who they want to see go on to the general election.
Well, I think the bigger thing in the mission for the Republican parties in the counties and everything is to really get the word out, let people know how they can get active. And with the way media is today, and James, I think you've seen this, and we talked about this earlier, the way media is today, you scratch your head and go, I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what's true anymore. And you certainly can't count on a person's affiliation by saying they're Republican anymore, because the rumor now, which is not rumor, is fact. When I ran for office, the Democrats were calling for Democrats to change the party and run as a Republican against me because they could not win that area. And I was shocked that they were so outgoing and public with it. But Carmen, you're seeing this in Tampa as well, this region as well. They're changing their party affiliation because they have just totally destroyed the Democratic Party, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens every election cycle. You've got people that switch parties because they want to be able to win that district and they need to be that party affiliation. Florida's done an incredible job. We've had great leadership at the top, from Governor DeSantis to Evan Power, who's the chair of the Republican Party. And we have, I think, over 1.5 million more registered Republicans now in the state of Florida. And then here in Hillsborough County, we actually flipped red in January of 2025 of this year. And it was about a 700 person margin, so I didn't want to celebrate too soon, because if Craig Latimer went in and did any voter roll cleanup, it could have flipped back to blue. But we're gosh, we're several thousand voters ahead now in Hillsborough County as far as being Republican. We're a red county now solidly. So we still have little pockets, like you said, the city of Tampa proper. Some of that gets a little bit, here and there, more pockets of blue. But as far as the county goes, we're definitely solidly red.
Now, it's interesting you say that. When I became a county commissioner in Flagler County, I was told by a very close friend of mine who was chairman of a commission for 16 years in Georgia, where I came from, and he said, if you want to win your county over and you want to win your seat and you want to keep it, he goes, and you want people to become Republicans, show them how they can pay less taxes, live a better life, and enjoy a safe community. He said public safety, economy, and protecting their family's future is very important to them. I did that, and yes, that is a true example of it. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people flip to that seat or flip over to Republican. But you do have to face it. And James, that's why I wanted you to talk a little bit about your background. There's so many people out there that they were Democrat one day and all of a sudden they're Republican today. Charlie Crist, I think, is an example of that. So Tampa should know. Let's let the listeners know a little bit about your background, who you are, where you come from, and what made you make this big leap.
Well, I completely agree with Carmen. Look, not all Republicans are the same. I mean, Liz Cheney was a Republican up until about 20 minutes ago, and she called for the impeachment of the duly elected president of the United States, of course, President Trump. And so when we as voters come out, we're not going to judge a book by its cover. We're not going to say, well, because that guy's a Republican, we're going to throw our weight behind him. The voters of Florida are very wise and rightfully skeptical of people who are trying to ride on folks' coattails and claim to be something that they aren't. And so I think about it this way. Where are you on the key issues for our movement today? Where are you on illegal immigration? Where are you on the H-1B visa program in particular? You got kids from USF, I was there a couple weeks ago, UCF, FSU. They got great grades, great test scores. They did everything right. They didn't study gender studies or interdisciplinary CRT. They studied math or engineering or computer science. They can't get a job. I met a young man at FSU a couple weeks ago, 117 resumes he submitted.
Wow.
Didn't get a call back once. He's at the top of his class in computer science. Many of the companies that he applied to actively have H-1B visa applications out. What does that mean? It means they can bring in talent from India, from China, from South Asia here, not because that talent is more talented. We are the smartest, hungriest, most brilliant people on planet Earth. But why do they bring in folks from India and China? Because they can pay them less, work them harder. It's that simple. And so my vision for Florida is a vision that protects the dignity of our workers, that stands up for our neighbors, that protects our environment, that says, you know what? We don't need a 15th self-service car wash. We don't need a 7th Dollar General in our community. We don't need another giant self-storage unit. And we sure as heck don't want an AI data center the size of a Costco to jack up our electric bills. So I am a America First conservative. I'm in this race because my great-grandfather fought in World War I and then ran a small hotel in Fort Lauderdale Beach. My grandfather fought in World War II and ran cattle outside of Okeechobee. My father proudly drove the city bus down in Broward, where I was born and raised. I now live in the Panhandle. I'm in this race because Florida is our home. Very simply, 4 words, that's my campaign slogan. Florida is our home. It is not their portfolio, Blackstone. It is not their playground, property developers. And it's sure as heck not a place where we can allow the Sam Altmans and the Elon Musks of the world. With all due respect, they've done great things. But you're not going to buy up our rural land, our rural communities, and turn them into these AI data center warehouses that end up hurting us in the long run. I'm in this race for one reason. If the people of Florida hire me, they're hiring me for a job. If they hire me for this job to be the next governor of this state, to succeed our great Governor Ron DeSantis, who sadly is term limited. If he were running, I wouldn't even be in this race. But if you hire me to be your next governor, I want you to judge me on one thing and one thing only. Did I make life more affordable for you, your kids, and your grandkids? I'm in this race to do that. CRT, DEI, transgenderism, I'm in complete agreement with President Trump and Ron DeSantis on that. They've largely tackled those issues. The issues that matter today is if that young kid at FSU sends in 117 resumes, he's the top of his class and he can't get a job, that means he'll have no income. If he has no income, he can't buy a home. If he can't buy a home, he can't get married. If he can't get married, he can't have kids. Joe, if you can't have kids, Carmen, if you can't have kids, what on earth is the point? I am in this race to preserve and restore the American dream for a state that my family has known for 4 generations.
You know, when you think about what you're saying with the current governor, and Carmen, you saw this happen as well. We all did. We were very close to having a Democratic governor before Governor DeSantis won office. We were just a few votes away from having a man who was very, I want to say, interesting mayor of a large city, kind of similar to the mayor in Orlando, who's running for governor as well. We were very close to having a guy who, less than 60 days after that election, was found in a hotel room in South Florida on crack with another man having sexual encounters. That would have been what's running our state. And why that is so crucial and such a big thing, COVID immediately hits afterwards. And because I was a commissioner during the time, and because I knew I had a governor backing me, we stood very strong in our county to keep our county open and to keep our county free. One of our biggest mottos that I said was, I had ancestors that stormed a beach like this and showed Flagler Beach so we could walk freely on them. And I said, we're not closing our beaches down and restricting them. We later find out all that was a hoax. I mean, if we think about it, growing up, we always were told sunshine kills everything. It's so good to get out in the sun. When you're sick, you have the flu. But we went against everything our morals and values and our experience taught us, and we shut down our country in many areas. When I'd go to places, the other cities and other counties and other states were begging for money. And I made the comment, it's simple, just open up like we did in Florida. Their response was, no, we follow the media. We don't want to step over dead bodies like y'all are doing in Florida. Y'all have dead people everywhere. I mean, you guys were here.
I didn't step over any dead bodies. I was enjoying the sunshine.
It was the safest place to be, in fact, to be a senior. It was the best place to be if you were a senior because you were protected. It was the best place to be a kid because you got to go to school. I mean, these kids in New York and California, you know this, Carmen, they were shut out of school for upwards of 2 years. And when they got back, they were forced to take experimental vaccines, which totally backfired, and forced to wear masks even though they were 5, 6, 7 years old. And so I don't want anybody to rewrite the history of, especially not the Democrats. See, they call themselves MS Now instead of MSDNC. It's MS now, it's BS now and later and before. It always will be. The BS, the slanderous lie, Joe, that Ron DeSantis was making the wrong decision. No, Ron DeSantis followed the science at a time when no one else would. And I even say no one to include a lot of the establishment Republicans in Washington, D.C., who were histrionic, I mean apoplectic about this COVID this and this COVID that. Our governor looked at the science, looked at the mortality rates, recognized this was no worse than a common case of the flu, kept us open, and we are stronger today because of his courage then.
Well, I think one of the big things we can say is we have a governor that didn't care about getting reelected and saying what people wanted to hear. He stood and fought for what's right, and in that term got reelected because he did that. We have so many people in D.C., so many people that come up, and Democrats are notorious for this. Let's say whatever we can to get elected again. Let's appeal to these illegal immigrants because we can get their families' votes that are here. They don't do what's right for the country. Carmen, you guys are doing a lot to fight against this in districts and areas throughout the state of Florida. It's working. It's succeeding because everybody wants to move to Florida. But what do you think some of the key issues that are coming up in this next election? And what do you think? Of course, the governor is probably the most important role because, like James said, if we don't continue what we've got, continue what DeSantis has done, this state could flip back and go quick back in a hole. What do you think are some of the most important issues for the next governor? And what do you think some of the most important issues for the state of Florida for other offices are?
So I think the most important thing at the top of the governor position and some of the cabinet is affordability, like James was talking about. And that's everything from property insurance, car insurance, just the insurance industry as a whole. People, I mean, there's so many different things we can be looking at to just give people relief in several different places. It may not all come at once. Like we may not be able to solve the property tax issue in one fell swoop. It may have to come in phases like some of them are talking about, but we can certainly look at home insurance and car insurance and other things that if you save 200 here and 300 there and 400 there, that adds up instead of eliminating everything. So I think there has to be common sense things, but I do know that's, among my members of our local GOP, it's affordability, property tax, homeowners insurance, car insurance. I mean, just the everyday things. And still and President Trump's doing a fantastic job. But still somewhat affordability as far as going to the grocery store, and gas prices are down, which is fabulous. But still at the grocery store, you still see some of that where people are struggling and groceries are still a little bit higher. And I know he's working on that. But I would say that's probably the number one issue is the affordability. I agree with James with, just the housing industry too. And we see all of these apartments going up. I would love to have a study on how many of these apartments are actually at capacity. And if they're not at full capacity and we're throwing up 5 more down the road,
saturating a market.
Saturating a market. We've got homes that are owned for rental purposes only, so it's destroying the American dream of home ownership because you have corporations coming in and buying up homes and neighborhoods of homes, not allowing people to have that, and it jacks up the price too because they can come in and pay cash for those and pay above market value for those. So I think there's a lot of things we need to look at as a state to keep it affordable.
Our interest rate is doing that too with the high interest rates, and Trump has really gone after the Fed chair to lower the interest rates. But I think people need to understand when you got double-digit interest rates or 9% and 8% like we had under Biden,
Right.
we got 10% was a starting rate under Biden. When those rates happen, people are forced to go in and rent because they don't have the cash to pay cash, whereas developers or these bigger corporations do.
Right.
They come in and they don't care about it. They actually love high interest rates because it makes the market go down, and they love that a little more. That's a very good question. James, is affordability, you mentioned that's one of your top things. Tell us exactly how you would help make things more affordable for the state, for Floridians.
It runs the gamut. I think what Carmen said is spot on. We're not just talking about property tax, abolishing that completely for Florida residents' primary homestead. We're not talking about your shopping center. They're going to pay property tax, or the snowbird home from Canada. They're going to pay property tax, or your third or fourth home. We got to abolish that. We have to also bring more competition back to our property insurance, auto insurance market. Give you just a personal example. I got a car in the parking lot out there. I'm paying more to insure that car every month that I am on the car payment. Think about how wild that is to insure the car, and it's about double the actual car payment. That's not a system that is really replete with competition. You have to bring more competition to bring prices down. But the number one thing I'm going to do is address housing affordability. And the way you do that, we talk a lot about illegal immigration. As we stand here today, we've got Alligator Alcatraz, thank you to A.G. Uthmeyer and to Governor DeSantis and to President Trump. We still have 1.4 million illegals in our state right now, Joe. They're not living outside the Tampa Convention Center. They're not living on the beach in Naples on the sand. They're living in single-family homes. So that could be upwards of 250,000 homes that they are in right now that a Florida family cannot have because it's off the market and occupied by somebody who has no right to be in our country. And so if you want to tackle affordability, yes, we've got to abolish property taxes. Yes, we've got to bring back more competition to the auto insurance, the property insurance market. We also have to free up the housing market from illegal immigrants who are occupying those homes. Because if you do save the money, if you do have that, and then you go to the housing market and there's no homes available, then the affordability question is totally out of the question. I think the way to measure the prosperity of our workers, of our retirees, is not the stock market, is not GDP. It's 2 measures in particular. What percentage of 30-year-old men are married and own their home? When my dad was growing up in the 60s, half of 30-year-old men were married and owned their home. Today, less than 15% are married and own their home. Think about that. They're renting for life. They're delaying the start of marriage, delaying having kids, upwards of a decade. That's not tenable. And the second thing is, how likely are you to be able to raise a family on a single income? We don't have to go back 50 or 100 years. My family did it. I was born in 1995, and I can tell you it is still possible to create an economy that allows one parent to stay at home and raise the children, and another one to go out and get a great paying job and support that family. And so to come full circle to your question, we've got to get the illegals out of our housing market. That'll bring 200,000 houses on the market. Number two, I'm the only candidate in this race, but also nationally that's a Republican, that says it's time to get Blackstone, BlackRock, Airbnb, all of these speculators who all they do is come take housing supply off the market to then force us to rent. We don't want to rent. We want to own. It is the number one asset for an American to have, to build generational wealth, to stop renting, to actually buy dirt, as we are told to do, is to buy your home. You can't do that if Blackstone will come in at the last minute and outbid you and take that property off the market. If Airbnb or if a foreign speculator from Canada or China will do that. I think it's an utter abomination that a 31-year-old kid today can do everything right, can somehow beat the odds, beat the H-1Bs, get a job, save up, have the money for a home, and then get outbid by a couple $1,000s by a Canadian speculator who will leave that home vacant 9 months out of the year, where that young man would have used that home to marry that God-fearing woman he's been seeing for months now, years now, and then start a God-fearing family. I think we have to get our priorities straight. What is our North Star? If our North Star is building more construction, if our North Star is another self-storage unit or car wash or Dollar Tree to increase economic development, this vague term, which is utter nonsense, we don't feel that. If our North Star is that, we're going to continue to lose our country, our state. But if our North Star is, can you raise a family? Can you afford groceries? Can you buy your home? Can you stay in your home and pay for that property tax bill, that insurance bill, that auto insurance bill? If you can do all of that, then we will have done a great job. And that's why I'm in this race. I'm not in this race to do anything for the property developers, for the investment firms, for the foreigners who come to our state. They're happy to visit. They can go to the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons. But our homes in Florida, I'm the only one saying this, our homes in Florida should be for our families and no one else.
You know, I think that's very interesting because, Carmen, you think about this. You know, we were in a little bit of a different era growing up. We go out, we buy a home, and we had. I remember Clinton and I remember Bush. I remember Reagan all talking about first-time home owners, buyers incentives and stuff like that. The Democrats now are pushing it for illegals. They're pushing it for people who aren't from this country. And the narrative of helping the American, the guys and the girls that go through college, have this college debt, go out, get a job, and want to start a family, have a home, the narrative to help them is really gone. It's not talking about it anymore. It's helping illegals.
Right.
So we're doing more to help people come to this country than the people who are already here living and built this country stay in. I just got back from Germany and France, and I didn't feel like they were going to do that for me over there. I felt like they enjoyed me visiting. They enjoyed me being.
They want your tourism dollars.
They want my tourism dollars,
and then you can go home.
Yeah, but they didn't. They didn't offer me a free home, and they didn't offer me a job while I was there. They did want my money. They didn't offer to give me any money. So when you see things like this occur, it's very discouraging. Like James is saying, what do you think some of the other issues are that we need to tackle?
I think just keeping, like he said, Governor DeSantis's conservative values going in our state. But I do think the overbuilding, people are concerned about that with all the construction and just you see all the decimation of the trees. And, you know, people forget Florida is a state built on aquifers. And we have to protect our waterways. We have to protect our fresh water and our natural habitats because that's the way Florida was created. And when you start, I mean, even in Hillsborough County during the last 2 hurricanes, places that never flooded just got decimated because of the overbuilding, I believe, and all the concrete, and they're not putting in the right systems. But also, when you have concrete over aquifers, they can't absorb the water like they need to. So we need to be careful with water shortages. And I mean, you look at California and people are starting to compare us to what's happening in California. If we keep building over everything, we're not going to have a fresh water supply like California's done to themselves.
And James, as we wrap up, Carmen's got a good point. Infrastructure. What's your take on the infrastructure in Florida?
My take is that Carmen's absolutely right, that if we keep building, we turn ourselves into a concrete jungle. Not only are we going to be utterly ugly in the process, and we're going to lose our identity and natural landscape, we're actually going to threaten the environment. Now, look, the climate change agenda is a hoax. It's been pushed by the Democrats for decades, try to force us to do things like buy electric cars and the rest. But there's nothing wrong as a Republican, as a conservative to stand up. And you know, conservative begins with the word conserve. We have to conserve and protect our environment. Governor DeSantis has been an incredible conservationist for the Florida Everglades, for our waterways. I would do the same as well. I think at the end of the day, we can't just take $1 million here and $2 million there and say, you know what, that's money. We're going to pave over this area. We're going to build something that doesn't actually do anything, but actually threatens not just our tourism, but our natural landscape beauty and water.
And James, you're running for governor. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and how they can reach out and support your cause.
Well, they can go to fishback2026.com. I'm in this race now a week, Joe, and our announcement video has racked over 4.5 million views. Wow. In the coming months, I'll visit all 67 counties to share my vision for the state that my family has known for 4 generations. I got to tell you the truth. In this economy, I'm not going to ask anyone to donate because I know how hard people are working to get by. What I would ask them to do is to share our campaign video, share our vision, and if they're able to volunteer at fishback2026.com. We got a state to preserve and to build on.
Carmen, how do people get involved with the REC or the GOP for Hillsborough? Mm-hmm. How can they reach out to you and find out more information and become an asset to?
Yeah, so we're always, especially going into 2026, we're going to need a ton of volunteers, go door knocking, stuff envelopes, all kinds of things. So hillsborough.gop is our website. So it's hillsborough.gop, and they can go in there. We've got a tab where if you want to volunteer or if you want to sign up for our newsletter or if you're just interested in becoming a member, because we have in our executive committee, when you join, you become a precinct committee man or woman. And so what that means is you're responsible for getting out the vote in the precinct you live in. So you kind of adopt it. You're responsible for letting your neighbors know when elections are, handing out electioneering paraphernalia, and just making sure people are aware of like the voter laws and where to go vote. And so we've got volunteer opportunities all up and down the board if you have an hour to spare, if you have 5 hours to spare. So yeah, hillsborough.gop, and you can find ways to get plugged in there.
Guys, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to remind you, fishback2026.com for governor. You can find out more about James Fishback, who has announced he is running for governor, a lifetime Floridian resident, many generations, running for this great state to keep it preserved, and also Carmen Edmonds with the Hillsborough GOP. You can reach out and get involved with them, Hillsborough GOP. These guys are some of the reasons why Florida is the best place to live, work, shop, and play. Thank you guys for your commitment to this state. Thank you for what you're doing, and good luck.
Thank you, Joe.